The year is 1994. The Cold War is over, but Japan's gravy train seems to be losing steam. Mamoru Oshii is fresh off of directing Patlabor War 2, some live-action movies, and most of the relevant 80s anime. But it's increasingly clear that it's not the 80s anymore. People aren't buying Betamax and Laserdisc of the hottest new OVAs, not in this economy. His Ghost in the Shell film is perhaps in early production, not a global phenomenon yet. But Oshii does have a manga idea, and he knows an excellent artist who can bring it to life. Satoshi Kon is not yet a big name in anime. His only anime credits at this moment are Rojin Z and the JoJo's OVA. He's perhaps just started working on Magnetic Rose. He's still half a decade from working on Perfect Blue. But he's also an excellent manga artist. Together, these two men would start an incredibly ambitious sci-fi adventure manga, a work to replace Miyazaki's Nausicaa in the Anamage magazine. Seraphim, 266,336,336 wings. If you're wondering what that number is, an apocryphal estimation of the number of angels loyal to God in heaven is a third over 133 million. Each presumably has 2 wings. 266 million odd wings, you see. The setting feels oddly topical. A mysterious plague started deep inside Eurasia, spreading across China and devouring most of Asia. With the way it spreads unpredictably and undetectably, leading to neurodegeneration and the growth of non-functional wings, the only option for the rest of the global order was to turn all of Eurasia into a quarantine zone. But with the disease being so hard to contain, it's only a matter of time. Perhaps due to the inexplicable circumstances, the World Health Organization has taken on the trappings of a religious order, donning robes in the caduceus and the titles of magi. They assemble a strange mission. Melchior, a guilt-ridden refugee manager. Balthazar, an old professor. And Casper, a dog. And a mysterious little girl are to be delivered into China by naval jets. From there, they are supposed to make their way inland, to where the little girl was found, at the origin of the disease. The road will be long and dangerous, as the People's Republic has fractured into warlordism and bickering rump states, even as the plague stalks among the populace. The juxtaposition of the surreal and supernatural with the intensely technical and political is what I love so much about the work of these two men. There's not many things I could be reading where we jump straight from breathless excitement about military jets and China's historic ethnic fault lines to hallucinatory scenes where our characters have religious epiphany and our geriatric basset hounds tears out people's throats. Here's just a glimpse at the dizzying level of world building that Oshii was engaged in. You'll have to pardon my pronunciation. The South China Democratic Federation, imagined here, was founded by the very real Politburo member Deng Xiaoping, and the Marshal of the People's Liberation Army Yi Jianying. The latter was a member of the Hakka, a minority subethnicity to the Han. His son, Yi Zhuanping, who was in reality the mayor of Guangzhou, has taken the opportunity here to found a Hakka homeland there. His people live in modernized versions of their traditional Tulu forts, now concrete arcology fitted with dozens of naval point defense turrets to destroy the unnatural hordes of ravenous birds that have mysteriously appeared along with the Seraphim plague. Yi takes Melchior to one of the Hakka's traditional ossuary, headstones of Seraphim victims stretching out to the horizon, and he restates his people's will to fight on and survive, even as the birds choke the sky and the world trembles. Even though he is most famous as a director, Kon is not to be underrated as a visual artist. He brought Oshii's tones and ideas to life. His art here is defined by sharp, ramrod straight lines. The backgrounds are drawn with this almost blueprint precision. But both the characters and the buildings are splashed with heavy, dark details which draw the eye. It's a style which suits the very on and off surrealism of Oshii's world and its massive scope. This is well displayed by the first major locale of the story, an unexpected stop in a heavily worn Shanghai, ruled by murderous rogue magi and the centuries-old conflicts of the Triads. It's a maelstrom of betrayal and violence which you'll recognize from Oshii's other works like Jinro. Escaping their pursuers, Melchior and his new guide jump from an abandoned construction site into a mass grave. Skeletons of the infected, thousands of them, hemmed in by the scaffolded walls. He blames the local authorities, but his guide points out that he, who was once known as Jacob the Country Killer, has walled off entire nations to become corpse pits like this. They walk on, through a pile of bones. Later, after fighting their way to rescuing the girl from being burned at the stake, Melchior announces that his role as a magi is not just to observe, but to judge, and dispense retribution when necessary. Soon, the city's corrupt magi feel the wrath of God, or at least cruise missiles from a Taiwanese destroyer offshore. They leave Shanghai in darkness, the city center in flames. Our wise men reach the next friendly settlement, steel themselves for the detour through Russia. And then that's it. 16 chapters. That's all we ever got. The last we ever see of the Magi and the girl. How did this happen? I could give it the "this is what they took from you" treatment. I could tell 1,000 just-so stories or sensationalize it any which way. Oshii was mad because Ghost in the Shell was snubbed for the cover feature in Animage in favor of Evangelion. The manga, featuring no Japanese characters and actually stating that Japan was destroyed, was seen as unrelatable and insufficiently nationalist by right-wing otaku. Animage's readership were degenerates who would only read things with moe girls. The JoJo OVA sucked all of Khan's time and energy away. Angered at the depiction of a shattered China and democratic uprising, Chinese Communist Party chairman Jiang Zemin deployed a Japanese communist assassin who had escaped the DPRK by the northerly route to strong-arm Animage into canceling the series using cock and ball torture on the management. The true answer, as far as I can tell, is that Oshii and Khan simply grew tired of working with each other. If that's so, it softens the blow ever so slightly, as it means that a complete product may never have been in the cards. Regardless, the way this manga went out brings me a very special kind of sadness. I may never live to see the end of Berserk. I will never live to see the end of Vagabond. But I don't think anyone can argue that we haven't gotten to see those stories at their best. Seraphim was just barely unfurling its wings when it was so abruptly cut off. We only got to see one arc in this world, which spent most of its time establishing a cast which will never be utilized. Khan, of course, went on to make some of the greatest anime movies of all time, but, well, then you know, at the age of 46. If I could have transferred a year off my life so he could have finished The Dreaming Machine, I would have. Oshii hardly ever wrote another political and historical sci-fi story like this again. The last time he updated his What If the Union Lost the Civil War fanfic was in 1999, and he's basically withdrawn from anime since the public rejected the best movie he ever made. Hot take, Vlad Love was pretty fun, but the Patlabor references felt like they were just taunting us. He's getting to an age where it feels like my odds of ever seeing a great anime again will be dictated by actuarial tables. Will there be more manga writers to come who are otaku for obscure historical events, politics, old movies, obscure materiel, as opposed to just being anime and video game otaku? I can only hold out hope. Seraphim stands as a small, sad monument to what could have been, and the failure of two men's great ambition. But of all the unfinished manga out there, this one will always hold a special place in my heart. Holy fuck! Was that a Seraphim 266,336,336 wings reference?